All right, so you've probably seen the headlines swirling around Shannon Sharpe. Today, we're going to do a deep dive, looking past just the headlines.
Yeah, we're really focusing on the source material.
Exactly. We're looking at Stephen A. Smith's recent YouTube video. He's Sharpe's colleague, so it's an interesting perspective. Our goal is to kind of unpack what's actually going on here.
Right. Get to the core details, understand the situation as it's unfolding, using Smith's view as a lens.
Okay, so the main thing, the absolute center of this, is a civil lawsuit.
Filed by a woman, Jane Doe is the pseudonym she's using.
And the allegations are serious. Assault, sexual assault, battery, sexual battery.
It's all laid out in this lawsuit filed in Nevada, and it claims these things happened late 2024, maybe early 2025.
And there's also intentional infliction of emotional distress alleged too. So, yeah, pretty heavy stuff.
Definitely. And the reaction from Sharpe's side was, well, it was fast.
Super fast, right. He and his legal team, they put out a statement on social media almost immediately.
Yeah, and they didn't mince words. Called it a blatant and cynical attempt to shake down Mr. Sharpe for millions of dollars.
Wow. Strong language. They also said it was full of lies, distortions, and misrepresentations.
And then, kind of controversially, they released alleged text messages, sexually explicit ones.
That's a very aggressive opening move, isn't it? It signals they're going to fight this very publicly.
It certainly seems that way. High stakes.
Now, the lawyer for Jane Doe, Tony Busby, that name, it rings a bell, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He's been involved in some major cases. Lawsuits against Jay-Z, P. Diddy, involving sexual assault allegations.
Right, the Jay-Z one was withdrawn, I think, and Jay-Z actually countersued Busby.
That's correct. And Busby also represented a lot of the women in the Deshaun Watson sexual misconduct lawsuits.
So his involvement adds another layer here, given his history with these kinds of, very public and contested cases.
Definitely part of the context you need to understand.
And just to be super clear for everyone listening, this lawsuit we're talking about now, it has nothing to do with that Instagram Live incident from last September.
Completely separate. Good point. Those are two totally different situations. Important not to conflate them.
Okay, so after that initial statement from his lawyers, Shannon Sharpe himself put out a video.
He did, spoke directly, and he doubled down, basically. Called it a shakedown.
And specifically said it was orchestrated by Tony Busby. He even made the claim that Busby targets black men.
Which is a very, very serious accusation, obviously referencing Busby's past cases.
And Sharpe also seemed to preemptively address a potential video leak.
Yeah, he said he expected a sex tape might come out, claiming it would likely be edited.
And he challenged Busby to release the whole thing.
Exactly. He urged him to release the full video. Sharpe's claiming the whole encounter was consensual, that the woman he named her as Gabby or Carly on OnlyFans invited him.
So his narrative is that it was a setup.
That's what he's alleging, yeah. A setup involving her and possibly someone else. And he mentioned they're supposedly seeking $50 million.
$50 million. Wow.
And he finished by saying he's going to countersue for defamation. So it's a full-on counterattack strategy. Very public, very aggressive.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly to Stephen A. Smith's take on all this. He works directly with Sharpe on ESPN's First Take, so his perspective is pretty unique.
Right. Smith talked about it on his YouTube show, and he started by making his support for Sharpe really clear.
Yeah, he called him a friend, a colleague, highlighted how important Sharpe's been for First Take.
Mentioned the show's been #1 for 13 years, credited Sharpe significantly for that success.
And reminded everyone that he was the one who brought Sharpe over to ESPN after he left Fox. So there's a personal investment there, too.
Absolutely. But Smith was also careful, wasn't he? He drew some lines.
He did. He stated very clearly, look, I have no firsthand knowledge of what actually happened here.
Right. Can't speak to guilt or innocence, which is the responsible thing to say, obviously.
But he did acknowledge, this story is everywhere. Major media outlets are covering it. It's out there.
Yeah, it's become a big public issue, no denying that.
And Smith brought up a really crucial point for you, the listener, to understand. This is a civil case.
Not criminal. Big difference.
What does that mean, practically?
Well, like Smith pointed out, no threat of jail time for Sharpe from this case, but he could still be found liable.
Meaning legally responsible, potentially having to pay damages.
Exactly. And the damages being sought are huge. That $50 million figure keeps coming up.
And the standard of proof is different too, right? Not beyond a reasonable doubt, like in criminal court.
Right. It's preponderance of the evidence in civil cases. Basically, is it more likely than not that the allegations are true? It's a lower bar.
Okay, so some other details have surfaced too. Like the accuser's age when she met Sharpe.
Reportedly 19 back in 2023. That's been reported.
And there's this audio?
Uh-huh. Busby released some audio. It allegedly features the accuser talking to someone, believed to be Sharpe.
And the content is supposedly threatening.
That's the report, yes. Threatening language. And it seems like the release of that audio might have pushed Sharpe towards his more forceful public defense, the shakedown claims.
Now, Stephen A. said he felt kind of torn about how Shannon responded publicly.
Yeah, he expressed that. He said he understands the urge to fight back, defend yourself.
Yeah.
He even brought up Jay-Z's situation with Busby, how Jay-Z went hard on the denial and legal action.
It's a natural instinct, isn't it, when you're accused of something serious?
Totally. But Smith also said he was uncomfortable with Sharpe's team releasing those alleged explicit text messages right at the start.
So a conflict between defending yourself and maybe the tactics used.
Seems like it. Smith acknowledged it's a tough spot, stay quiet and let lawyers handle it, or speak out publicly.
Did Smith talk about ESPN's reaction?
He did. He said he told ESPN and Disney even mentioned speaking directly with Jimmy Pitaro, the co-chairman.
Okay. And the company's stance?
Smith said they're taking it very seriously, that they're looking into this very, very closely, basically gathering facts before making any decisions.
And Smith made it clear that any decision about Sharpe's future at ESPN wouldn't be his call.
Right. That decision comes from higher up. It does highlight, though, the potential professional fallout for Sharpe here, separate from the legal case.
Smith also talked about his, ideal outcome, his perfect world scenario.
Yeah, which is, that the allegations turn out to be false.
So Sharpe can continue with First Take, his podcast, Nightcap, Club Shay, all that stuff.
And maybe even land that massive deal. There were reports of a $100 million potential deal just before this broke.
But Smith sounded pretty cautious about whether that perfect world is likely, right?
He did. He acknowledged that with Busby involved and the accuser pushing forward, it seems, well, uncertain at best.
And Smith kept coming back to Sharpe's very strong stance. The innocent claims, the shakedown accusations.
He reiterated that's what Sharpe is firmly saying. But Smith himself seemed to question maybe the wisdom of being so vocal publicly right now.
Why? Because it's a civil case.
Partly that, and also the potential impact on, say, advertisers, on ESPN itself. They're all watching this. Such strong statements can be risky while things are still playing out.
So why did Smith decide to talk about it at all?
He was pretty clear on that. Said it's solely because of his professional relationship with Sharpe and, well, the massive public interest. Sharpe's a huge name.
Right. He emphasized again, look, I don't know what happened. I just hope if Shannon is innocent, that it resolves well for him.
Yeah, it felt like he was trying to balance supporting a colleague with acknowledging the seriousness of it all.
So where does that leave us? Smith kind of summed it up, didn't he?
Pretty much. He said only time will tell what the truth is here.
And reiterated his support for Sharpe, but acknowledged how serious this all is.
Yeah. It really leaves you, the listener, thinking, doesn't it? How do you even process something like this when it involves a public figure you might follow and the information is coming out piece by piece?
And you have these competing narratives, the legal process, the court of public opinion.
Exactly. And what does it say about navigating these accusations today when careers, reputations, huge amounts of money are all intertwined? It's complex.
Definitely a situation with many layers. And like Smith said, we'll have to wait and see how it unfolds.
Mm-hmm.